So again, we finished the warm-ups for this week by writing a sentence about what you learned for the week, and complete sentences, of course, as a part of our language objective for the week, and we turned that in. Now, we're going to get out our notes for an open notes constructions quiz. Let's do this. Let me explain it real quick. On the quiz, all you got to do, it tells you to copy ABC, copy it in this box. Hint, page 3 of your notes, okay? Copy over here. I got to see every mark from the notes, okay? So if you just draw a random angle, that's nothing, okay? Bisecting this, that's page 4 of your notes, okay? On the back, there is a back. Okay, copy this segment over here, page 1 of your notes, bisect this segment, and bisect this segment here, second page of your notes, okay? Everything we did on the warm-up, and also our notes. Just 4 things we've learned. Please get started. It's time. Let's talk about midpoint and distance formula. So, have y'all ever done midpoint formula before? It's a whole lot of no answers. So, everyone's listening without headphones in their ears, right? Right? True? True? Please. So, midpoint formula, the way we do it, it says we add up the x's and then we divide by 2. We add up the y's and we divide by 2. Right? So, let's do that. Y'all know in coordinates, the x comes first. So what's the x value of this first point? 8. What's the x value of the second point? Okay, so we're going to add up our x's and then divide by 2. So the formula is x1 plus x2 over 2. So it's really 8 plus 2 over 2. Now you might be able to do that mentally. Add up the top 2 numbers, then divide by 2. Order of operations, right? I do want to show you how to type it in the calculator correctly, just in case you want to use your calculator. So let me show you how it's done, okay? So, on our new document calculator, okay, if I'm adding 8 plus 2 divided by 2, here's the wrong way to do it, right? 8 plus 2 divided by 2. That's only going to divide the second number, as you can see. 9 is incorrect. So do y'all know how to make it into a fraction? What do I press? Control divide. 8 plus 2 on top. Whoops. And then 2 on the bottom. Then you hit enter. It should be 5. Or you can do parentheses, 8 plus 2 parentheses divided by 2. That's another way. It turns it into it in the original way. So again, please, if you use the calculator, you have to type it in correctly. So back here, 8 plus 2 divided by 2 is 5. That's just the x value. What are the y values here? Right, so y1 plus y2 divided by 2 is going to be 7 plus negative 5, or 7 minus 5 is the same thing, divided by 2. Okay? So what is 7 plus negative 5? Write this down. Or 7 minus 5, what is that? 2, and then divided by 2 should be 1. Okay? Now, those two numbers need to be written as a ordered pair, coordinates. So x comma y is going to be 5 comma 1. Cool? So, you try number 2. I'll give you a minute. Get a fraction, you can get the decimal by hitting Control Enter. So on this one, it's negative 10 plus 1 divided by 2, which gives me negative 9 over 2, or negative 4.5. Control on the y's, 2 plus negative 7 divided by 2 is negative 5 over 2, which gives you negative 2.5. Remember to write it as an ordered pair. Okay, now, on these two, what were we looking for? We were finding the midpoint. Finding the midpoint. Whoops. But on number 3, we have an endpoint, we have the midpoint, and we are trying to find the other endpoint. Okay? So you cannot do number 3 and 4 the way you did number 1 and 2. But we're going to use a similar formula. So let me show you what I mean. We're supposed to add up the x endpoints, right? So the endpoint x value is negative 5, right? So write negative 5 plus, but the other endpoint we don't know. So write x comma y next to it. It's unknown. So what we're going to add is negative 5 plus, I don't know, call it x. Okay? Right? Everyone's writing this down? So, negative 5 plus x, we add up those endpoints, divided by 2, and that equals the midpoint. What's the midpoint x? 1. I know these are weird, but if you're given the midpoint and you're looking for another endpoint, this is one way to do it. Okay? So I have my x's divided by 2 equals the midpoint. You can solve this. How do I get rid of a divided by 2? Multiplying. So times 2 cancels that out. Times 2. Bring down negative 5 plus x. What's 1 times 2? 2. So again, when you're doing these type of problems, not writing on the desk, do this. Or number 3. Okay, you set it up, endpoint plus endpoint over 2 equals midpoint, times 2, and then get rid of this loner. What's the opposite of minus 5? And 2 plus 5 is 7. That's just the x. Let's try it with the y, right? What's the y value of this endpoint? Negative 3. Plus, what's the other endpoint's y value? Y divided by 2 equals the midpoint y value, 3. Then, solve it the same way. Multiply by 2 on both sides. So, times 2 cancels it out. Times 2. We're going to bring down negative 3 plus y. And 3 times 2 is 6. What's my last step? Get rid of the minus 3 by adding 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. Again, your answer, what? Again, your answer is, almost, watch, coordinates. So we have x, we have y, we have to write it like this, right? 7, 9. Now I want everyone to try number 4 the same exact way. There's actually, before we do number 4, okay, there is another way to do this, okay? If you don't like that way, this way might be better in your mind. As long as everyone's listening, wide awake. So, here's the question. To get from this endpoint right here to this midpoint, what's the difference? How do you get from negative 5 up to 1? What do you add? 6. So here's kind of another way to do it. All you have to do is add 6 to that 1 to get to the other. And what's 1 plus 6? 7. Okay, so if you like just finding the difference, adding the same difference, that's one way to get the other endpoint. Same thing here. How do you get from negative 3 to positive 3? That's still adding 6. Now, it's not always the same. And then 3 plus 6 gives you 9. So there's 2 ways to do it. As long as I see something on your page that you're like finding those differences. Okay. So again, I give you 2 ways. I want you to try number 4, whichever way you like. Go for it. So, by the way, y'all know that negative 1.5 is negative 1.5, right? All right, so again, x1 plus x2. Negative 3 plus x over 2 equals the midpoint, negative 1.5, times 2, times 2. Cancel that out. Whoops. Negative 3 plus x equals negative 3. Add 3. And x is equal to 0. That's fine. And then with the y's, 4 plus y divided by 2 equals the midpoint y, which is 1 times 2 times 2. 4 plus y equals 2. Minus 4 gives you negative 2. So our answer is a coordinate pair. 0, comma, negative 2 is the other endpoint. Cool. Okay, so once you have that down, if you don't already have it, you're going to flip it over. We're not napping, right? So, again, and you know how to get that? All right, so again, finish getting that down, and then flip it over. We're going to do distance formula real quick. On the back, does anyone still need this? Okay, on the back. Distance formula. Have y'all ever used distance formula? Okay. It's basically Pythagorean theorem solved for the hypotenuse and using x and y coordinates, right? Right? On this, we're going to use, on this number 5, we are going to plug in these x's and y's, right? So my x2 is the second x value right here. My x1 is my first x value right here. y2 is my second y value right here. And then y1 is my first y value. Now, you have to, I want to see you write out the whole square root, the whole equation. Okay? Starting with letter D equals, draw yourself a long square root sign. And let's start filling it in. First thing is parentheses. x2 is 4. Then what do I put? Minus. And then I need to put x1. What is x1? What's the first x value? Negative 4. Now I have to put that minus sign, and now I have to put negative 4. So some people forget to write one of those, or just assume it's going to be just one sign. But sometimes you'll have a minus and then a negative, which is okay. Now, how many of y'all learned that a minus and a negative can turn into a positive, right? So I don't mind if you write a positive instead, okay? But the thing you don't want to do is just write a negative, or just write a minus, okay? It's minus sign, negative sign, or a plus. Squared plus, and then y2 is 9, minus y1 is 3, parentheses squared. Now, we want to be able to take this and put it into the calculator. So, I'm going to freeze it over there, and we're going to type it in the calculator. So, looking over there, I want to get a new, fresh document, and I'm going to hit square root. Now, do y'all know where the square root sign is? Right here, underneath x squared. So I'm going to hit Control x squared. Y'all can type this with me. And then you need a parentheses 4 minus sign, negative sign, 4 parentheses squared. At this point, do not press right. Don't ever press right. Just hit the plus sign, hit the parentheses, 9 minus 3 parentheses squared. The square root symbol should go all the way across, all the way to there. all the way to right there. Cool. Now, once you type it in one step, hit enter and you're done. What's my distance? 10, right? So you should write it down. So that's the work I want to see. And then if you type it in, just write the answer. That's it. Okay? Try number 6 and number 7. Okay? Number 6. Whoops. What's x2? Everyone's writing this down. You're doing it yourself. What's x2 though? 2 minus what's x1? Negative 3 squared plus what's the y2? And then minus y1 is negative 7. Let's tap that in, get our distance. Okay. Okay. When you round, don't write every single decimal every single time, right? In general, 2 decimal places, the hundredths place is good. So 11.180 will make the 8 stay an 8. So 11.18. Cool. Now real quick on number 7. We're going from an endpoint to the what? Midpoint. What do you call it from the end to the middle? What's that part called? What? If you're watching a football game and you're watching it from the middle, or try the beginning to the middle, what just happened? That was the first half. Okay, half. I'm talking about midpoint, half. So here's the deal. From end to mid, that's only halfway, right? And they're asking you to find the measurement of the whole thing. So guess what most people do? They see 2 points. Okay, they see this, and they do distance formula, right? And they get a number, and they box it, and they think they're done. But that distance is only half. How do you take that number to get the whole? What do you do with it? Multiply by 2. Okay, that's over-exaggerated. Okay, so I'll just redo that. Multiply by 2. If you don't do that, you'll be half right and whole wrong. All right? So I show you that as an example. I want you to try this on your own, okay? Find that distance. Once you get the distance, don't forget, that's only halfway. Multiply it by 2, all right?